In Wisconsin today, Jeffrey Dahmer died. He was murdered in the prison where he was sent in 1991 for murdering 17 men and boys.
November 28, 1994, one of the most notorious serial killers in history met his end. Jeffrey Dahmer, who had killed and cannibalized 17 men, was bludgeoned to death by a fellow inmate in a Wisconsin prison. Here's some serial killers who got taken out in prison. Donald Harvey.
Cincinnati's so-called angel of death, Donald Harvey, dies this morning after a brutal beating in prison.
1987. Donald Harvey pled guilty to killing 37 people. The soft-looking man had been hiding a decades-long secret. While working as an orderly, Harvey was poisoning hospital patients driven by some god complex. He saw himself as an angel of death who decided to end the suffering of the terminally ill. April 15, 1952. Harvey was born to a poor family near Cincinnati, Ohio. He dropped out of school after 9th grade but earned his GED through correspondence school. Still, he remained unemployed and aimless until he went to care for his dying grandfather in a hospital in Kentucky. There, he developed a morbid fascination with death. He became a frequent visitor to the hospital and was eventually hired as an orderly. He gave his patients medications and saw to both their medical and personal needs. He became obsessed with this feeling of power over the helpless, as he controlled all the routines that would keep him alive. May 30th, 1970, Harvey smothered 88-year-old Logan Evans with a pillow and a plastic bag in a fit of rage after Evans rubbed feces in his face. This marked the start of Harvey's brutal killing spree. Now, the majority of his targets were elderly and terminally ill patients, and his deeds remained undetected for many years. With no one suspecting him, he felt invincible. Consequently, he used whatever means he had at hand to murder them. Harvey's preferred way of killing his victims was by poisoning them. He would put chemicals like cyanide, rat poison, and arsenic into his victims' foods and drinks. He would also suffocate his victims, either with pillows or by letting their oxygen tanks run out. Now, he would continue this rampage for nearly 2 decades until a stroke of luck during an autopsy finally unveiled his sinister acts. March 1987, a man named John Powell was hospitalized after a motorcycle accident. He unfortunately died in his hospital bed, but not from his injuries. During a routine autopsy, a doctor noticed an unexpected scent emanating from his stomach: cyanide. It was clear that Powell had been poisoned. Harvey was the attending nurse at the time, and the investigation quickly zeroed in on him. He was brought in for questioning, where he eventually confessed to killing Powell. He said he did it out of pity for Powell and his family. Now, he didn't mention the other murders he had committed, but the evidence soon revealed that he was responsible for dozens of other deaths in 2 different hospitals, one in Kentucky and one in Ohio. The authorities had enough proof to convict Harvey of killing 37 people, but some estimates suggest he may have killed over 100.
Donald Harvey killed, in and out of hospitals, as many as 130 people.
Later in an interview, Harvey claimed that he was mostly motivated by mercy. "I felt what I was doing was right. I was putting people out of their misery. I hope if I'm ever sick and full of tubes or on a respirator, someone would come and end it." August 18, 1987, Donald was sentenced to 4 consecutive life terms in Ohio. A month later, he would receive 3 more life sentences and 3 20-year terms in Kentucky. March 30th, 2017, Harvey died at the age of 64 in the Toledo Correctional Institution, Ohio. And just like his victims, he didn't die of natural causes. This man was found in his cell, severely beaten and bleeding from the head. He was rushed to a hospital where he was pronounced dead. The autopsy showed that he had suffered multiple skull fractures and brain injuries. Now, the killer was identified as James Elliott, an inmate who was serving a life sentence for aggravated murder. He was serving time with Harvey in the protective custody unit, where inmates who are at risk of being attacked by other prisoners are housed. Now, Elliott used a metal bar from a closet to bludgeon Harvey to death while the guards were doing their rounds. He later told authorities that he had planned the murder for weeks after learning about Harvey's crimes. He revealed that he grew up in Kentucky, near some of Harvey's victims' relatives. He said he was disgusted by Harvey's actions and couldn't stand seeing him alive and breathing.
An unsettling situation in Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi to be exact. It's been revealed 215 bodies were buried in unmarked graves behind a state jail in Jackson, of course. Attorney Ben Crump is now calling for an investigation. Families of the dead reportedly had no idea until last month. Some of them, those grave sites were only labeled by a number and a metal rod. Joining us to talk about it, activist Arthur Silky Slim Reed, who also works with Ben Crump.
So, Arthur, this started with Dexter Wade's case back in March, right? He was an individual who was hit by a police officer, and his family thought he was simply missing, but he was dead and buried, and no one notified them.
Well, the thing about it is that he had identification on him, Isaiah, and the medical examiner gave it to the lead detective, who said he called, didn't get an answer, and they didn't worry about doing anything else. What we're finding, Isaiah, is that Mississippi is Mississippi. It's an ugly Mississippi. And this is sad because now we have 6 other individuals that has been put into this same grave. And if you look at the video from when we first went to that site, buzzards were flying overhead. And we were trying to figure out, why are the buzzards flying overhead? But it's because they're putting them in shallow graves, and the only thing that they're putting them in is a body bag without embalming the bodies. So the stench from the bodies are drawing buzzards there. It's so inhumane for anybody to do anyone like that, Isaiah, is just horrible is what we can say. And that's not even a word that we should use in a situation like this. It's something that we haven't seen.
And what we're seeing here is over 200 people in this, what they consider a pauper's grave behind the county jail there. And what you guys are learning in your investigation is many of these families were never called, were never notified. Many of them still think their family members or thought their family members were simply missing, but they were dead and buried and never got a call from any investigators, any law enforcement officials or authorities in Jackson, Mississippi.
That's right. And one of the things that we faced being Mississippi is that they thought that we were playing the race card. We have white clients as well. There were white people that were buried the same way, Isaiah. And any human being that's buried the way that they're burying these individuals, it says a lot about the people that's doing this criminal act. And the only thing that we're asking, because people always look at us when we're out fighting for civil rights of individuals, the only thing that we're asking in this case, we want you to do the right thing and give them a humane burial. And the city is, so it's crazy, Isaiah, to see something like that. It's 2023. It's not 1940. But to see them just dumping bodies in a grave like that, and no name, just a number. So they'll say, well, number 13, that's Arthur Reed. Number 21 is Isaiah Carey. But we don't really know until we get the remains. And then the remains had decomposed so bad, we just have to take them at their word. And when you look at the story, they told us that they would exhume this body at 12 noon, but they ended up taking this young man, Dexter Wade, out of the ground at 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. They say, we were not going to allow them to embarrass us with those cameras. If you're not embarrassed by what you're doing, it's shame on you.
Absolutely incredible. Now, you guys, along with Ben Crump and I think Attorney Dennis Week, you all are asking for a federal investigation, that the feds come in and take a look at this and see exactly what's going on, because there's some questions as to Dexter Wade's death when he was hit by the police officer. Whatever happened with the officer in this case? And why wasn't his family ever notified that he was dead and not just a missing person? So bottom line, you want an investigation, right?
We think many civil rights were violated in Dexter Wade's case, not notifying the family, burying him without permission when you knew who he was. That's the key issue right there. You knew who this individual was. And if you look at the Dexter Wade case, it's sad, but Dexter Wade's uncle was killed by Jackson police, and they knew the family because they was involved in an ongoing lawsuit with family with Attorney Sweets, who you're talking about. So this is very, very, very troubling for us for you to know this family already, and for you to do something like this. This was adding insult to already injury that you had done to this family, Isaiah.
Hello, y'all. Thank you for being a part of BammBamm RawTV. I appreciate you. I want you to hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you know my next video coming out. This episode here is about the effect that the death of our family, friends, and loved ones have on us in the federal prison, and what we have to go through and how we are dealt with. Okay, I started off with the first episode. I'm going to talk about associates, because they all have different reactions. Associate, you got to do the associate that you can. I mean, I know that little kid. I've been knowing that little kid all of my life. I know that little kid folks. I know that dude people going on blah. He done got hit, but God dog, he got hit by the other people folks that I know. So now it's like, it's a messed up situation. You like, bam, you know, boo, our city, you love everybody out your city, you love everybody out your state, because you done grew that level. When you was out there doing what you were doing, you wasn't on that level. Thank God I'm not part of that no more, but still, you wasn't on that level. But when you go to the federal penitentiary and you start getting that worldly unity and that stately unity, then it makes a difference. So when you hear things like that, it do affects you to a certain point. Mostly like a guy in your city, you be like, man, that's little Joe Blow who got hit, but he got hit by little, whatever, little Scooter or whatever. Scooter is my cousin, baby mama, daddy from that side, and he is such going on like that. Like you saying to yourself, I wish you wouldn't like that. I wish I didn't play the game that I played when I was out there. I wish I had knew the stakes that was involved and what was going on. So now you're in a situation where you're feeling bad for both of the families. You're feeling bad for both of the individuals. And other dudes, now you got the people who be like that. Now other dudes are sitting in there, they're looking at their lost life. Despite what they did with theirs, they're sitting there and saying, God dog, man, dude had a chance to do this, and dude had a chance to rap. Man, dude had bought, he was getting him a car business. Dude was doing this him. Man, dude should have got out the game, man, and stayed with that. Man, but you didn't do it. But I understand now you know better. And that's why you wish you could have talked to him. But now you hurt now because you're like, damn, man, this dude had a lot going for him, man. And, you know what I'm saying? He threw it away being caught up like that, man. You know, you can do more for your hood with money than you can with guns. You ain't gonna shoot with one son gun, maybe two with a gun. But you can lift up a whole neighborhood when you make the right amount of money. You can hook up your whole clan and put them in positive situations. You shooting 2-3 dudes and they die from that, it ain't gonna get your mom out that old regular house she in. It's gonna keep her in there because you can't make the money you need to be making. And dudes in jail see that and they say that. They be front TV. Oh man, if I had to tell them dude had, man, if I was going where dude going, man, if I was smart as dude, I wouldn't have did that, man. I wouldn't be wasting my time with them dudes. I wouldn't have been doing that. I wouldn't have been tripping with them dudes like that because it ain't that big. If it's really about your people, then pursue your thing and take care of them. And them dudes, they say that. I hear it in the TV room all the time. I hear dudes discuss, oh man, I had a little homie just got knocked out, man. He just boom, boom, boom. Okay, man, that dude had this, man, he was doing this, he finna get it on this, he finna do this, he finna do this. And they telling you, they telling the people what they could have did if they had that opportunity again. Because they messed up the opportunity they had. Now they in jail with a life sentence. Only thing they can affect is how much a unicorn make off of them. If they go to work in unicorn, because I never worked in it. Yes, people go through. They go through that, and in jail, they come to the real prison. They come to the realization that when we lose one of our people out there, they are telling you so much that could be done with their life. Even though we messed up our part with it at that time. Thank God I got another chance. But they see it. And if I could get them to talk to the individual before, both of them, they feel sorry. We feel sorry for both of them. We feel sorry for the shooter, because when he get caught, they going to slam him. We feel sorry for the one who dead. So both of their lives has stopped at a cessation right there. Boom. Both of their life is over. So I don't know, no matter how good you can rap, I don't care how much money you was making over here doing this here, I don't care about how much it's over. It stopped. You stop, you may get away with one, you may get away with two, but it's gonna catch up with you. And the thing is, when a person get killed that's associated and in your city, in your state, you feel it. You feel it in the federal penitentiary because we represent our states. We represent our cities and our states. We ain't just representing our hoods. So you feel that. Anybody get killed in your city, state, you feel bad about it. And even that dude may be in your opposition out there. But when you in jail, that same dude, people who was an opposition to you out there is rolling with you. Ain't no get in there and don't roll with you. They'll roll your ass up. It ain't gonna happen. But, and I'm saying again, dealing with death on an associate on this episode. We dealing with even if he's somebody that you partially held, you deal with, you gonna like, hey man, golly man, I remember when dude was a little bitty boy. I remember when dude was this. I remember when dude was that. You got memories of this kid. You got memories of these people. Well, I grew up, even if you don't know him. Man, I knew his mama. I used to go with his mama. Me and his daddy was best friends. It affects you. We human beings. No matter what we put in our system out here that makes us believe that we uncaring, hateful people, whatever it is we put in our system out here, when you in there with the realization what you have caused yourself, your family, and everything, it's going to bother you. And do a catharsis on themselves. Don't nobody do it on them. They be like, damn, man, if I was out here, I did this. I didn't say what you would do if you was out there. You said, man, if I was out here, I would have did this if I had this talent. I would have did it. You had a talent. Your talent, you knew how to put things together. So you just had to put the right things together. Instead of negative things that you know that the people already were waiting to come down on you anyway. They're getting ready to come down again. It's just a matter of time. So this I say, and this in how you feel about your associates. You say, oh man, dude, gun dude down and blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, a baby. They even had, let me tell you, they even had a dog. A hunter went hunting. While he was hunting, he set his rifle down. When he set his rifle down, his dog came over there licking, stuck his paw in the rifle and shot him. Pretty sure, I think he believed it, if I remember the story right, he killed him. True story. A dog shot and killed a human being. So that makes a person with the ability to shoot, how special does that make them? How special do they make them to be able to pull off something? A baby have pulled a trigger. A baby has got a gun, 2-year-old baby, and pulled the trigger and accidentally kill somebody. But those things, to most of our young people, I've been a part of it. And my apologies is up in the air now that I know better. Baby kill a person. Dog kill a person. So how do that make you a man that you can? Resolution and keeping yourself and your family right. That should be our biggest priority. And that's what they be thinking about in there. And I'm going to tell you all a story that is what they be thinking about. And you got some, oh man, I was beefing with dude and death, but still, they still didn't hate dude to that point. And some people, they were like, hey man, if I wasn't out there, now I done grew up, now I'm doing something different, now I realize the traps that was out there. That makes a difference. It make a big difference. So that's the thing with associates. People in your city, people in your surrounding, people you know loosely. That's the conversation with them. But when you come on here, the next one, we're going to go step to episode number 2. And I'm going to tell you how the people react. Because remember, I did not say nothing about the chaplain or the counselor in this. You know why? Because your friend, your associate getting killed is not worth. That human being life is not worth you being able to get a free call from the chaplain. That's why it's not mentioned. But I'm going to take it up a level on episode number 2. And you'll see we're going to step it up to the next level of death on the streets and how it affects you inside of the federal penitentiary. All right, hit the like button, subscribe, that bell icon so you know my next video come out. And I wish y'all peace and prosperity.
Albert DeSalvo. July 8, 1962. Readers of the Sunday edition of the Boston Herald opened their pages to a shocking headline. Mad Strangler kills 4 women in Boston. For the next 2 years, a ruthless serial killer would stalk and murder 13 women, leaving behind a trail of terror and mystery. The killing spree only came to an end with the imprisonment of Albert Henry DeSalvo, who confessed to being the infamous Boston Strangler. September 3, 1931. DeSalvo was born in Chelsea, Massachusetts. He had a traumatic childhood marked by the abuse of his father, a violent alcoholic who constantly abused his wife in front of their children. He also exposed his family to his sexual escapades with prostitutes, whom he brought home and forced his wife and kids to watch. Growing up around so much violence and depravity, DeSalvo soon developed his own twisted tendencies. He would torture animals as a kid and become a petty thief and delinquent as a teen, often getting into trouble with the law. In March 1960, DeSalvo admitted to being the measuring man after he was arrested for breaking into a woman's house. Now, this was the moniker given for a serial predator who went door to door, disguised as a modeling scout. Once admitted into his victims' homes, he would use measuring tape as an excuse to molest the unsuspecting women. This man was given 18 months in jail, but was released after 11 for good behavior. Oddly, around the time DeSalvo got out of prison, 13 single women between the ages of 19 and 85 were murdered in the Boston area. They were eventually tied to the Boston Strangler. Most of these women were sexually assaulted in their apartments, and then strangled with articles of their clothing. At the same time, the police were looking for a criminal dubbed the Green Man, because of the color he wore when he committed his sexual assaults. The Green Man was also none other than Albert DeSalvo. October 27, 1964. He was finally caught when one of his victims reported him to the police and gave a detailed description of him. Authorities believe that during his rampage, he committed more than 400 burglaries and sexually assaulted more than 300 women. 1967. DeSalvo was convicted and sentenced to life in prison for his Green Man crime and was sent to Bridgewater State Hospital for evaluation, where he shocked everyone by boldly confessing his identity as the notorious Boston Strangler. However, he was never formally charged with any of the murders, mainly because there was no physical evidence linking him to the scenes, and also because the few women who had survived the Strangler's attacks failed to recognize him. February 1967, DeSalvo made a daring escape from Bridgewater State Hospital along with 2 other inmates, murderer Frederick E. Erickson and armed robber George W. Harrison. This would set off a huge manhunt, which led to the capture of Erickson and Harrison on the same day. But DeSalvo, he seemed to disappear into thin air, leaving the city of Boston on edge. A note was discovered on DeSalvo's bunk, addressed to the hospital superintendent. In the note, DeSalvo explained that he had escaped to draw attention to the hospital's conditions and his own situation. 3 days later, DeSalvo contacted his lawyer and decided to turn himself in. The lawyer then alerted the police, who rearrested DeSalvo in Lynn, Massachusetts. Now, following the escape, DeSalvo was transferred to Walpole, a max security prison, where he reiterated his confession to being the Boston Strangler to another inmate. As a lifer, DeSalvo believed he had nothing to lose and started dealing drugs inside the prison, but he thought wrong. November 25, 1973, DeSalvo met his demise in a frenzy of violence, discovered brutally stabbed to death in the chaotic confines of the prison infirmary. He was 42 years old, and his autopsy would reveal that he had been stabbed 6 times in the chest and neck and had defensive wounds on his hands. He also had a broken nose and a fractured skull. The killer was identified as Robert Wilson, an inmate serving a life sentence for aggravated murder. He was a member of the Winter Hill Gang, a notorious Irish-American crime syndicate operating in the Boston area. Wilson took out DeSalvo for undercutting the prison drug market by selling amphetamines at a lower price. For decades after his death, DeSalvo's confession was met with skepticism and controversy. Some people believed he was the Boston Strangler, as the murder stopped after his arrest. Others thought he was a liar, only seeking attention, and that the Boston Strangler was actually more than one killer, because the victims varied in age, appearance, and social status. But a recent discovery put an end to the speculation and confirmed DeSalvo's guilt. July 11, 2013, Boston law enforcement officials announced that they had matched DeSalvo's DNA to the crime scene of Mary Sullivan, one of the Boston Strangler's victims. They had exhumed DeSalvo's body and tested his DNA against the seminal fluid found on Sullivan's body. The results were conclusive. DeSalvo was the source of the DNA. Roger Kibb.
An autopsy finds convicted serial killer Roger Kibbe was strangled to death in his Mule Creek State Prison cell.
For 10 long years, Roger Reese Kibb hunted down and murdered at least 7 women who crossed his path on the Sacramento freeways. He was known to be the notorious I-5 Strangler. 1987, Kibb's reign of terror came to an abrupt end when he picked the wrong target, Deborah Ann Guffey, a sex worker who fought for her life and screamed for help, attracting the attention of a police officer. Thanks to Guffey's testimony, Kibb was convicted of assault and battery and jailed for 8 months, during which the police built a murder case against him. Now, authorities believe that he was the infamous I-5 Strangler, a serial killer who was terrorizing the Sacramento and Stockton areas along Interstate 5. In 1991, Kibb would face trial for the murder of Darcy Frackenpole, a woman he had kidnapped from a rest stop on I-5 and strangled with her own bra. The prosecution had 2 crucial pieces of evidence: a strand of Kibb's hair on Frackenpole's body and a piece of fabric from his car that matched the cuts on her clothes. Kibb was eventually found guilty and sentenced to 25 years to life, but that didn't stop prosecutors from trying to establish a connection between him and the remaining murders. 2009, Kibb struck a deal with authorities to avoid the death penalty. He pled guilty to the murder of 6 other women and received 6 more life sentences. February 28, 2021, in Mule Creek State Prison, Kibb met his end in the same manner he used to end the lives of his victims, by strangulation. This man was found dead in his cell at around 12:40 a.m. by an officer who was conducting a routine check. Kibb's killer was his cellmate, Jason Budrow, an inmate who was serving a life sentence for strangling a 48-year-old woman. Budrow was a self-proclaimed Satanist who had a history of violent behavior. Now, Jason later admitted that he had killed Kibb to avenge his victims. He was then charged with first-degree murder with special circumstances for murdering Kibb and received a life sentence. Interestingly enough, Budrow is now facing charges for attacking another inmate just last year.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Grab one arm. Oh, look at him.
Some are blind. Others are ridden with cancer. Many have serious mental illness. All of them are old. And a few will never get out alive.
The United States gives out longer sentences than any other place on the face of the earth. Europe looks at us like we don't know what we're doing. It looks like that we're crazy.
Open now.
In this special investigation, Fault Lines gains unprecedented and exclusive access to prisons across the United States and discovers a booming population of elderly inmates.
Open fire.
We ask, what's the true cost of America's lock 'em up and throw away the key approach to justice?
Medical's been notified as Palmer. I've been in the corner right here getting ready to count the door, and I heard him fall. Boom.
Doc, can you feel everything? We got medical on the way.
Bobby, it's Elizabeth.
So just
He just left.
put it in the There you go.
Head wounds have a tendency to bleed a lot.
1, 2, 3. Around, sit down. There you go.
That's because I'm treatment record and shut the door.
Watch your feet there, yeah.
Oh, give him a couple of them too.
Inmates call this the death house. The geriatric unit at the Joseph Harp Correctional Center in Lexington, Oklahoma, holds more than 250 elderly and disabled offenders. It was created 3 years ago in response to a massive explosion in Oklahoma's elderly prison population.
There you go.
Our fastest growing segment is the inmates that are the age of 50 and older. We have about 3,700 now. That's grown almost 200% in the last decade. And projections are we're going to continue to grow at about 45% a year. Because of enhancements to punishments, tough on crime, 85% laws that require you to serve 85% before you're even eligible for parole, and then the advent of life without parole.
My name is Plutarco Hill, and my number is 48713. I received that January the 16th, 1948.
Plutarco has the oldest inmate number in the state. He's 86 years old. 66 of those years have been spent behind bars. He's escaped from prison 10 times. So you're as good at getting out of prison as you are getting in?
Well, whenever my health was good. I can't think of the name of the little town where that U-Haul trailer was at.
What are you serving for now, this sentence?
This sentence is a murder charge.
How long ago?
1947.
What's your sentence?
Life.
Which one are you?
I'm up there. I'll come on.
And this is what life means for Plutarco now. A small section of a dormitory with a few black and white photographs of his family. He's outlived all of them. Elderly people in prison, so they'd be given extra consideration for release.
Well, yeah, I do.
Can you explain why?
Because they're harmless.
Plutarco's not alone. In fact, he's part of a growing American trend. In the last decade, the number of prisoners aged 55 and over has grown by an astonishing 75%, partly because longer sentences began to be handed out in the 1970s and 80s as the U.S. took a tough-on-crime approach. And the older a prisoner is, the bigger financial drain they pose. An elderly inmate costs around $70,000 a year to lock up, 2 to 3 times more than younger offenders. Older prisoners suffer higher rates of health problems, functional disabilities, impaired movement, major diseases, and mental illness.
Oh, Holy Father, we ask that you touch this moment.
It's reality for all of us.
Because we all someday shall be here.
Though perhaps a harsher one for some.
Ronald Hugh Chambers was born in the state of Texas, September the 30th of 1955.
Ronald Chambers was sentenced to 35 years for aggravated robbery.
Died at the age of 56.
He served 18.
January the 19th of 2012.
When Chambers died in prison, no one claimed his body.
We got this first one right here.
No family, no friends.
4 guys on the straps with gloves. You got gloves on.
And so the state of Texas takes on the role, using inmates to do the work.
We're the family for them. We're out here with their brother and wife, or their sister, whichever it may be that we're doing.
Watch the step.
Warden James Jones says no matter the crime,
it's a life still.
They're human.
Yeah, they've committed a crime and they're locked up in prison, but it's still a human life that we're dealing with.
On this day, these inmates buried 5, but before the 4th and 5th caskets were put in the ground, they made a stop at the top of the hill. Guests are a rarity.
It makes you feel good here to see that there is a family to come and have a service, you know, and to have them a proper burial.
Family members not wanting to claim the body, but wanting to say goodbye, have a few minutes and a prayer with the chaplain. Standing too far to hear, but close enough to see, Leon Dickens couldn't help but think,
it could have been me.
It's crossed a lot of their minds.
It could have been my mother up there crying her heart out. And I just thank God that it isn't.
Dickens has been in prison for 16 years for aggravated robbery. He is set to get out in less than a year.
I said that could have been me because I was headed down that malicious path. And I'm just thankful to God that I didn't take anyone's life or hurt anyone. But it could have been me.
When the families left, the caskets were taken to the bottom of the hill. There, they will join the other 3.
Everybody deserves some forgiveness and some decency.
In the coming weeks, inmates will make their headstones. Name, number, date of death, and an EX if executed. They will be just like the other 2,100 headstones at the Joburg Cemetery.
I know my family wouldn't let me stay here. They'd come get me. At least I hope they would.
Always abounding in the work.
This 22-acre plot of land on the edge of town, the state says, is a respectful resting place for any human.
Oh, Holy Father, we come at the closing of this short graveside service for these men.
Everybody deserves a respectful burial. We're all God's children.
We pray this now.
But it's the last place these inmates say they want to be buried.
For as much as you know that your labor is not in vain.
Anybody can die at any time. You're not guaranteed tomorrow. And I prefer to be out there than in here. Some of these guys don't even get that chance.
Amen, amen, and amen.
In Huntsville, Brian Nuke, Eyewitness News.